All right, welcome to the Hoops Rehab Show on Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. All right, Eric, how you doing?
Good, man. It's kind of weird. Like these games now are gonna, at least on the West Coast, they're gonna start ending pretty early, and so I'd been used to being up so late watching these games. But yeah, pretty good, pretty good. Obviously, we got Game 1 in the books of the Western Conference Finals, and I know we'll deep dive into it. But how are things going with you?
Yeah, man. Nothing like the Final Four and playoff basketball every day. You got one game a day, so it's going to be pretty fun for the next 2 weeks until finals. But as always, everybody, I am the Game Injury Doc. I can be followed at all social media handles there. And then on my right is Eric B. Mack. Please follow him on Twitter and Instagram, as well as the Hoops Rehab Show on YouTube and Instagram. And don't forget, we will be uploading this as a pod after the show. So please download on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you can do us a favor, please rate and comment as best you can on the podcast and share it. We'd greatly appreciate it. But let's get it cracking on Game 1. What'd you see tonight, Eric?
Man, just before we get into it, the playoffs are just so fascinating as you move on and you get to rounds 2, 3, and hopefully 4 in the finals. It's so interesting how you play such different opponents. Like, for example, the Thunder playing against the Nuggets, where the focus has to be just obviously with just one player, with with the Joker, Jokic, and he's obviously like the most essential player on the team. Everything evolves around him. And then you play a Minnesota team where, of course, they still have a great superstar in Anthony Edwards, but it's just different. Minnesota is like a team that they come at you with different players. And so I think we saw that today where OKC had about a half of adjustments where they kind of needed to see they saw a new opponent, and it took a bit to settle in and adjust. And so that's what the first thing I kind of thought of was like, man, it is fascinating. It's interesting. Series to series, it's just so different. And I think that's what we have so far. And this is obviously a fill out game. And that's what I'm kind of thinking, today was. And what did you see in Game 1?
Yeah, I mean, first half, especially the first quarter, I was just like, this is going to be a defensive juggernaut on both sides, because you got two top 6 defenses in the league, and they were just completely on each other from the get-go, right? So you kind of were like, all right, this is going to be one of those series that you might see something in the 90s, that type of game where you're not getting those full set of points, right? So that's what the first half I kind of thought about that, and I'm like, all right, Minnesota, I see they're here to play, and they look good, and their defense is ready. And then Anthony Edwards kind of rolled his ankle and they kind of slowed down some momentum, and it did obviously come back to the game. Might not have been the same attacking Anthony Edwards that we normally see, right? So he only had I believe like 2 points in the paint. Shot a lot of threes, a lot of jumpers, and didn't really wasn't his typical attacking self. And that's what the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to need kind of moving forward, is just Anthony Edwards to be himself. I think one thing obviously that we saw, especially in the second half, is how smothering OKC's defense can really be and how good they are on defense. There is a play that Alex Caruso made in the fourth quarter where Naz Reid, he's on Anthony Edwards. Naz Reid is trying to set a screen on him. He slips the screen, does not let him set the screen. Naz Reid tries to set it again. He slips it again, gets in front of the screen, and he is in the face of Anthony Edwards the whole time and forces him into a pass to Naz Reid, which Naz Reid missed the 3 right after that. And just that play alone just kind of shows you what OKC is made of and what type of players they can really throw at you.
Oh, 100%. I mean, we've talked about it, how they're just so relentless on defense. And if it doesn't get to you in the first quarter, second quarter, it's going to ultimately get to you. I mean, it's kind of listening to some of the guys at the end of the game on the Minnesota side. They just kept talking about how Oklahoma City is they show you something different almost every possession. Sometimes full court press, sometimes half court press. They really kept talking about how they just like really fill the gaps, like just split second. So you think you have a driving lane, and then like half a second later you don't. And so going back to Anthony Edwards, he only took 13 shots. Only one of those shots was in the paint. It could be partially the ankle, right? Maybe not having the confidence to kind of spring off of it. But as he mentioned himself, again in the press conference, it was really the OKC defense as well, really not allowing that to happen. And I mean, obviously you and I, like being Laker fans, we're big fans of Alex Caruso, and we know that the team obviously made a huge mistake letting him walk. And so now we're seeing, what he has, and he did this in 2020 as well. It's just a little bit, I think he's a little bit better offensively now too. And pretty good to see. He's just been solid this whole playoffs for sure.
Yeah. He's a player that will definitely win you a championship and has championship experience. So he understands like where to be, how to get there, and what he needs to do and fill his role. Right. I like in the preview before today's game, they were asking him, like, if you have to guard Julius Randle, how do you feel? Or like, do you like guarding centers? Do you like guarding bigs? And he really is like, he kind of like laughed a little bit, kind of was, you can tell, not annoyed by the question, but he was like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to fill my role on this team. Like, he's that type of player that no matter what is going to give it his all. And he was outweighed by some of those guys by a lot. He can guard Anthony Edwards, guard Julius Randle. Doesn't really matter. But does a hell of a job on the court there.
Oh yeah, I mean they all are in such unison and their defense, and then obviously picking their spots offensively. They had a huge second half. They scored 70 points. I mean, for the Minnesota side, I mean, obviously, again, as a Laker fan, we were just so used to Naz Reid, DiVincenzo, and Alexander Walker just coming in and giving fits. And I mean, they were 5 for 36, those three combined. And so for the minute,
it's so funny. I feel like since game one, when they dominated the Lakers, like Naz Reid, I mean, I can look at his stats, but he hasn't been that like where that player where he got like 20 something that game, and it's like I highly doubt he's come close to that since.
He had the game, and you're like, damn, like,
and he's had 12, or he had a 19-point game against Golden State, but he really hasn't been that like that effect that he had on the Lakers in that game one, right? So yeah, I get your point with that.
Yeah, like it's funny how you do sometimes like you get caught up with like a one or two like really like, and he's had solid games, don't get me wrong, one or two real good games in the playoffs, and you kind of sit to yourself and like, damn, like how is he like, how did somebody slip up on that? How is he not getting like paid big money? And so, but then you see some of his other games, and he still does pretty well defensively, don't get me wrong, but that game one against the Lakers, like he hasn't been able to relive that. And not that they necessarily need that, but they do need a little bit more from those three guys, where offense is going to be tough to come by in the series, especially for Minnesota. They're going to really need him. Julius Randle had a great first half, a little, not as impactful in the second half. He kind of talked about how it seemed like they were OKC was running him off the 3-point line in the second half. He was obviously hot, and so that changed that around. And so, man, they're going to need obviously Anthony Edwards to be almost 100% healthy. They're going to need him to have some monster games. And so, I mean, I know I picked Minnesota, but obviously right now after game one, it's looking like Thunder might take this one, but obviously game two might be a different story.
Yeah, for sure. As always, everybody, if you're in the live stream on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, please comment. Let us know your reactions to game one, and we'll try to get to that throughout the show or at the end of the show. But I wanted to kind of get into stats that I kind of saw with this OKC Minnesota game, and one of them is points off of turnovers. Right, OKC was 31-10.
Wow.
Points in the paint, OKC 54, Minnesota 20. And then for threes, Minnesota Timberwolves took 51 threes. They made 15, but they still shot 51 threes, right? And there's a stat out there for OKC that if a team against them this year have shot 45 plus threes, they're 2-18 against them. So do you think is OKC packing the paint or in a specific way on their defense to allow players to just shoot the three, and they are willing to allow that because they don't think teams are going to beat them by the three?
Yeah, I mean, just with that stat alone, you got to think that there's definitely something to it. Man, it would have been interesting to see Boston versus OKC.
Yeah. The first thing I thought was like, man, because that's what Boston does. That's how that's how they live, right? They live by the three, die by the three.
Yeah, it would have been like, hey, strength versus strength, I guess. But at least we won't see that this year. But I think they make it very difficult to teams don't get easy buckets, and so the next best thing is to shoot threes. Even though like Randall, look, he's had a great playoffs and he had a really solid game today, and I think because he stretches out the floor is making him that much more impactful. But I liked it when he was like playing bully ball, a lot of these playoffs, getting in there, scrappy, bouncing off people, get into the foul line. I think that's where he's been at his best. I was going to say the free throws. He got to the foul line 6 times, so not bad, but minus 17 on the game. But that's when I think they're at their best. So Minnesota, regardless of what OKC is giving them, the Minnesota has proven that they're not a real effective 3-point shooting team. I think we even saw that against the Lakers in some spots of the Warriors. Minnesota is going to have to try to figure out a way to get some easy baskets and get some points inside. And that's what it's going to come down to this series. If they can't do that, then this one might be over in 5.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I there's another stat kind of talking about how OKC, and this is kind of like I wouldn't say it was a misleading stat, but it was basically OKC has surrendered like open threes throughout the season. They're like 28th in 3 points allowed this year. So now I'm like, was that their defensive strategy all year? Because they are obviously number one defensive for a reason, right? So it seems like they allow people to shoot the three, but they're not going to allow you to kind of get into the paint and kind of and when they need to pick their spots to kind of be aggressive and attack you, they will, right? And so they play that attacking style defense, which will surrender open three, right? Because if I'm double teaming somebody or I'm attacking somebody from the press, there's going to usually be, if you swing the ball fast enough, somebody's going to be open for the three. So that seems like their strategy, and it seems to be working, obviously, because they're the number one defense in the league. Yeah,
it's kind of suckering teams in. And then they have, in my opinion, I think the Lakers to kind of went a little bit with that strategy down the stretch. But I feel that OKC has the athleticism to get to that 3-point shooter at the same time, so they can give it and fill that gap a lot quicker than say the Lakers. And I don't think it's always like open threes. I think it's like they give the 3 up to the most like maybe prone player to actually miss it. And and they do, they definitely suffocate you, like the Minnesota, right? So they made 15 3-pointers. That's actually, the totality of it is pretty good. That's a good number, but they shot 51, obviously. And that means if they made 29 shots, that means they only made 14. So they made more 3-pointers than 2-pointers. And I get it. Like today's NBA, like maybe we see more of that than most years or than like most eras. But I'm pretty sure you're still going to need a lot more 2s than 3s, because that just means you're getting easy baskets.
Yeah. I don't think you're winning many games if you're making more 3s than 2s, right?
Yeah, and I get 3 is more than 2, but unless you're like making 3 or something. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's got to be a point of emphasis. We got to get easy baskets, because what a basket does is it lets Minnesota get set, and they're really good defensively too. I think the game got away from them a little bit, and so down the stretch, I think it was a lot of garbage points. So I think it would have been a lower scoring effort from OKC. But it obviously was a bad second half for Minnesota. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously they need to get some more points in the paint, and I don't think Rudy Gobert has really been heard from since Game 5 of the Lakers when JJ Redick decided to be as stubborn as possible and just play all the smalls and never play a big, and he gave up 27 and 24 to Rudy Gobert. But I think they need to get something out of him, especially if he's going to be on the floor, especially against a team that has some bigs and some size, and he needs to kind of at least be a presence down low. Can't just be having 2 points in the game. I mean, no, he's not a scorer. We know that. But you can't go out there and have 2 points, 3 rebounds, and 1 block.
That
in a Western Conference. Just say it.
Like
this is. You don't have to have a 2020 game, but you can't be out there having 2, 3, and 1.
Yeah, and it happens sometimes. It's playoffs, like
playoffs.
Yeah, I know. It's
you can't have 2, 3, and 1.
That's what just like.
I mean,
to this day, I'll always never forget that Game 5 where I know Lakers were small, but I was just kind of looking at some film. They just weren't boxing out too, but that's another story. So these teams are going to box out, and so. Yeah, he's not known to be an offensive player, but you got to get me more than 2, 3, and 1, especially when you got Jaden McDaniels. Actually, him getting into foul trouble in the third was huge.
Yeah, that did not help.
And if he's out, right, and and is a little hurt or whatever it is, he's not on his game. I mean. If Rudy Gobert is going to be a Hall of Famer, like he's gonna have to step it up, and I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess he's won 4 defensive player of the years, right? I mean, I guess I could put him up there, but yeah, I know. I just
oh my! I know people are not going to see my reaction on the pod, but Hall of Famer.
Yeah, that was that's the talk. I'm not saying I agree with that, but. He's there. That's just.
I mean, you have to win the championship in order for Rudy Gobert to be in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, I get a defensive player, all that stuff, but he wasn't Dwight Howard offensively, right? And Dwight Howard was obviously a great defensive player, but he had some skill offensively, and he would get you 20 and 10, right? So unless he's winning some
Mutombo, got some buckets,
Yeah, unless Rudy's winning some championships in the next couple of years, I think that's a little hard one to kind of get in there.
Yeah, Mutombo, Hall of Famer, right?
Mutombo, he better be if he's not, because ain't no way Rudy Gobert is making it over somebody like Mutombo.
Yeah, where he, obviously he was a career 9.8 points a game, but he had some years where I'm not seeing that. He might be. I can't at this first glance. I'll take a look at that. But anyways, we got caught in a rabbit hole. But if it's a potential Hall of Famer, come on, you gotta come with it. This is the Western Conference Finals, and kind of like we called out OG last round with the Knicks. This is a call out officially. Rudy Gobert. I'm asking for what, 10? But not so much. It's the rebounds. You got to give me some boards and some blocks.
Currently, Rudy Gobert is on the milk carton.
Yeah.
He's missing. And
stuck in LA from Game 5. That's where he's at.
If they're not going to have anything from him, and you got Jaden Daniels only played 24 minutes because of foul trouble. That is just a recipe for a tough game to win. I mean, I think Minnesota would turn it around in Game 2, and they'll kind of make some adjustments and do all that stuff. But they got to be able to attack the paint, and Rudy Gobert is going to be one of them that needs to be able to attack in there and get some easy dunks, easy layups, things like that, some pick and roll to kind of get him involved just to get some points in there. I think they're going to need that in order to win Game 2. I don't think I would ever in my wildest dream say, Minnesota's Timberwolves game 2 is dependent on Rudy Gobert, but it is.
Yeah, they're gonna need some from him. And by the way, Dikembe Mutombo, rest in peace, big fella. He was a 2015 Hall of Fame inductee.
Yeah,
so
I thought
so.
I thought he made it for sure. But yeah, so they need to go back to the drawing board and really just figure out how to go against some of these schemes that OKC has, and to me, like, I haven't seen a defensive team to play the way they do in a long time. Like, I mean, Boston was decent on defense last year, but not like this aggressive with the way they play.
Yeah, it's different.
And their depth is just ridiculous. Like, Kenrick Williams didn't even play last series. He came in and gave him 10 minutes, went 3 for 3, 2 for 2 from 3. And it was like such a big span in that third quarter where he was able to get hot, and that created some momentum. And like, I don't know what was the reason for bringing him. They just know the right moves to make right now, and the coach is doing a hell of a job making sure his guys stay ready, and he can go to almost anybody on that bench, which is just crazy.
Yeah, no, it's like they're super, super deep. We're seeing like different unsung heroes every game, every series. And that's like that defense, like you said, I mean, I'm sure there's some teams out there, obviously like the Detroit Pistons of the, 2004, 2005, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's probably a couple others, but their identity is defense.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it starts. And then you got an MVP and, Shai, which we haven't even talked about at all today. He had another 31 point game, and he's carrying this team right now offensively. And so the other guys are picking their spots. And it was funny. I don't know if you saw Michael Malone.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to say that.
Yeah, I didn't realize. I mean, sometimes it happens. He's like ESPN covering the Western Finals, and he said MVP SGA.
Yes.
So
yes, sir. I see that subtle shot at Denver and Joker there, according to the internet.
Yes.
But yeah, OKC dominant second half, outscored them by 30 in the second half. That third quarter was just incredible by them, and they're going to be a tough team to beat. But yeah, Minnesota's got to get it, regroup, and get ready for game 2.
Yep. I mean, you're almost, obviously, when you lose game 1, and it's going to be a big and important game for both teams. But when you're on the road, like you really want to steal one, and so if you get down 0-2 against these team, yes, you're going to be going back home, and good things do happen at home, but it's going to be tough sledding where the pressure will be on Minnesota to win 2 games at home. And so sure. I don't think we have to tell you, how big this game is. It's going to be huge. I see it being a little bit closer, or a lot closer down the stretch. And we'll see what Minnesota's got. They lost game 1 in their last round. Granted, it's a little bit different circumstance, right? There's no, knock on wood, no injuries from the OKC side like there was on the Warriors. But can't wait for game 2. And you got to think it's going to be a close